I just want to share a theory with you. So let's just say we are the creator, right? We are the one. We are the oneness. We are, even though this is an illusion, we're in bodies in multiplicity of many different, expressions of that oneness, that perfection, that infinity. We project into all these finite versions, temporary expressions of the one. Every tree, every leaf, every blade of grass, every particle of sand, every ounce of air that exists is all the one. Okay, and so we, being the conscious versions of that in this dimension at least, we have the ability to have a certain level of memory of how we created this place. And I don't know, I'm sure if you're watching this, you've probably had similar experiences, but I know as a kid, I used to have these memories of like the earth and the, creating all these mountains and all this, like storms and like things happening to create something, right? At the time, I didn't fully understand as a child, but as I grew up, it was like even the feeling, the taste of it in my soul was still there, right? The greatest part about that is what I realized. I was in a meditation one day, and all of a sudden this thought came up. Okay, like everything's math. I created everything with all this math and all these things, and I just forgot. I understood everything intellectually, and in the first level of creation, we were one with that divine expression in a fluid way. But then we started to really want to articulate our essence in many different multiplicities of ways, which creates many more multiplicities and diversity of bodies and forms and identities and more duality ultimately, right? And so in that creation process, we're really using what we call the intellect, what we call the certain level of mind. And there are many levels of mind, but in this, just in the simplistic way, this mode of mind, which we call intellect, likes to analyze everything, likes to dissect everything, likes to understand all the components mechanically to make things work, right? And we created many different forms from this, but in the process of that, simultaneously, synonymously with that process, because our focus was so intently on that intellectual side of things in the creation process, whether we believe it to be that we were like light beings and we degenerated over a long period of time, or however you want to look at it, but basically the theory is that simultaneously as we began to focus so much more on intellectual understanding and dissection and multiplicities and intricate detail of these next new forms that we were creating from the essence, right? In that oneness, from that oneness, we're focusing on the intellectual side of things more and more and more and more and more and more until eventually we forgot that we were part of the one, because we're so identified with all the multiplicity of things. We degenerated into form, into body. There's more species, more diversity. It's all part of the great plan. It's all part of the great process, right? But in that separation process, multiplicity process, that diversity also does in a short amount of time. Short, I say relatively because it's probably millions of years, but short in the relative to the grand scheme. It takes time for that diversity to realize the unity again, right? And in that process, synonymously focusing on what we would call masculine, intellectual, left brain, of figuring all these components out and expressing all these different diversity of things and doing, we simultaneously forgot the just pure essence, pure beingness, which is the feminine, right? The right brain, the fluidity, art. That's why in our culture we don't value art quite as much as we value technology. We don't value, expression as much as we value, form and process, right? And those things are both beautiful, but like one without the other isn't the full expression of self. And so over time, that synonymous thing that's happening where we're forgetting the heart and we're focusing so much on the mind, we're forgetting the pure essence of expression, and we're focusing so much more on the creation of the technology and the advancement in success and progress and all these things, right? none of these things in and of themselves are bad. It's just like one without the other isn't complete. And so as we realize, if we can come to realize, or if we choose to realize that we are that expression, we are that oneness. And so the whole argument about masculine and feminine and balancing the masculine and feminine, the divine masculine, divine feminine, balancing these things out to be a oneness is really the ultimate goal. It's not about negating one or the other. It's not about saying that this is bad and that's good and that's wrong and that's right, and that's just more duality, right? So the process really is learning how these things are oneness, because that's where they came from. They came from oneness. And it was only in mind that they split into the duality to create form and multiplicity, right? Expressions in multiple different ways, every color you can imagine, even beyond this, the senses and the sight and all these things. Within the inner cosmos, there's infinite other dimensions and realities and expressions, right? So beneath the ultimate infinity, the ultimate eternity, which I know it's weird because you can't really say that there's an ultimate infinity and then not an ultimate. That doesn't even make sense. But just for the sake of the mind's sake, for the sake of our intellect, the infinite has no form, it has no space, it has no time, it never began, it never ends. It's perfect. And from that love, yes, love, it all came into expression. Love is just a very it's the only word we have in the English language anyway that really fully can get to that understanding enough, at least enough for us to have a little bit of an understanding of what that is, right? What this is. But, beyond the limitation of these expressions, these words, it really is balancing the beingness, just being able to be. Work hard on growing your skills, growing your craft, learning the process, learning the strategies, all these things. But in that, don't lose sight of the beingness, the expression, the joy. Surrendering to the idea that you're being guided. The knowing that you're being guided. The fact, the reality that you're being guided. Not just the idea, but the fact that you're being guided. Every step is divine. Letting go of the control, letting go of, needing to have a specific outcome, because we know, because we're in this limitation of mind, any perception of the outcome that, we have is going to be limited. Yeah, let's have an outcome in mind. Let's make it positive. Let's make it empowering. Let's feel it right now. But know that it's even greater than that. Our mind can't fully comprehend how great it is, right? Letting go to that. Trusting that, surrendering to that. Anyway, I hope this has been a help to you, and if you really enjoyed it or it brought any kind of value to your life, subscribe, like below, and leave a comment, and I look forward to connecting with you very soon, my friend, and many blessings.